Good to see everyone. Another road win. Always tough, difficult task to do, especially in the Missouri Valley. Some definite positives during the course of the game. We had 200 yards rushing. We were 9 of 16 offensively on third down. I think that's a great number, especially against a team that traditionally plays really good football. And we had the ball for 37 minutes, and that's complementary football. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. That's one of the edges that we think we have as a program. Is all three phases trying to work together to help us get the victory at the end of the day. And then defensively, 2 of 11 on third down. Again, anytime you can get off the field quickly, that's a positive. No red zone snaps again, and then 7 TFLs. We got a lot of pressure on the quarterback. We're in the backfield a number of times, especially early in the game. And those are positives. Now we just need to continue to build off those. There's some areas that we can continue always to improve on. There is no such thing, or there has yet to be a perfect game yet. We're still striving to get there. But I'll open it up with questions then.
The shutout this week, and kind of how special has this defense been for you guys so far this year? How special is this defense?
Well, they're playing at a high level right now. I think they're extremely confident. I know our coaching staff, especially the defensive staff's done a really good job in the preparation piece, coaching all of them. Because you've seen we've played a number of different bodies right now on the defensive side, but I think that goes back a little bit to how we practice during fall camp, how we meet, how we walk through. All those things enable us to have that next man up mentality. And this was another week that we had some guys step in and make some big plays for us.
You guys are pretty well-rounded. Do you feel like there are any particular aspects of the game that kind of need to pick up a little bit, or do you feel like you guys are kind of well-rounded all around right now?
Well, I think we can always continue to be better in coverage. I always get extremely nervous of explosive plays and plays getting on top of us like they did a couple weeks ago against Northern Iowa. So there's definitely things that I think we can improve on, technical things that I think our coaches see during the course of a game or practice that we need to get better at. But the one thing that I am really pleased about is the effort and the energy that our kids play with on the defensive side.
Biggest difference with the defense since the spring?
You know what? I don't think you have time for me to answer that question. There's a million things, and a lot of them didn't have anything to do with football. I think there's been great leadership by guys like Jackson Hankey. Kostner Ching is another young man that really jumps out. Probably having spring experience for a lot of these guys now going through it for a second time. You talk about the Mostart twins, got a lot of playing time in the spring and continued to get better. And so I think that's been the challenge that our coaches put out there is we're going to take advantage of what we went through in the spring and use it to our advantage as we go through this fall season.
Obviously not online during the game, but if fans are getting frustrated with the offense, what would you say to somebody that's getting frustrated with the offense at this point?
Frustrated in what sense, I guess?
Maybe that the play calling's predictable. That's a big one that we see, or just conservative nature maybe of the game script.
I don't know if I'm really even going to comment to it. I think Coach Roll does a great job. I think, like I said, we had over 200 yards rushing. We're in the red zone 5 different times. I think our kids play unbelievably hard. I think there's a lot of positives right now. I think I just read off a list of them. So I'm not frustrated. Anyone who's frustrated with wins probably comes from someone who doesn't win very often.
The red zone thing. You've had 2 of the last 3 games where red zone's been kind of a bugaboo. What can you guys do better down there?
Score touchdowns. I know that's the obvious answer. Just be consistent. This last week we threw an interception where the backside safety he got the best of our quarterback, and our quarterback thought he was rolling down single high defense. We were going to hit the Y pop. He jumped back, trap coverage. He was trapping number 3 strong. And so, kudos to them. They're a good football team as well. They made a nice play. And, the other one was tips and overthrows. And so, no one went into the game, Ross, with the anticipation of throwing interceptions. No one was trying to not score touchdowns. Our kids play unbelievably hard. We'll continue to try to utilize our talent the best that we can. I think we're trying to get the football to as many different possibilities as we can. You saw Phoenix getting a shot down the hole. You saw a bunch of hitches, a bunch of stop routes with Christian, trying to, again, get him one-on-one with people, see if he can break some tackles. So I think it's there. I think it's just we got to break some tackles. We got to make some more plays. And can we continue to spread the ball around better? Probably. I know the wind probably affected us a little bit on, we didn't take many shots on Saturday, but it was probably a 20-mile-an-hour wind, especially when you were going into the scoreboard.
Expect to see the blitz as you continue to go on here. UND and Illinois State brought that a lot.
Well, I anticipate. I mean, this year's not the first time that we've seen it. I think we've seen it going back a number of times just in my 7 or 8 years that I've been here at NDSU, and even when I was the defensive coordinator, I hear our offensive staff talking about high pressure teams trying to spill and cut all our pullers and things of that nature. So I think we're going to have to continue to develop and create a plan for that. But when teams are sending 5 or 6. It's extremely difficult to have a lot of offense all of a sudden, because that all of a sudden requires a lot of time spent on protection, and also spent a lot of time picking up different blitzes. We need to find some things that we're really good at and execute at a high level.
Beat a blitz. How do you beat a 3-4 team that just brings the house like that?
Well, like I said, I think you can't try to run everything right into the pressure. Now, you need to make a decision. Are you going to run it into the pressure? Are you going to run it away? But I think there's some things that we can narrow down, but it's going to require some decision-making by the players on the field. We're not a look team, so we put a lot into our quarterbacks and into our players' hands of making the adjustments based on safety rotate, number of safeties, middle of the field closed or open, and just where that rotation, where that tandem is, where the pressure looks like it's coming from.
Where's he at as far as his freedom at the line? I mean, how much have you guys kind of given him at this point?
I think he has a fair amount going into every game. Ross, it's a little bit different depending on the opponent, but he does have the ability to get us in and out of some plays, change protections. That stuff he's had that since becoming a starter. No different than Cam had in the spring, or a guy like Trey had in 2019. The volume of offense continues probably to grow a little bit, but at the same time, not everything's good against certain fronts or coverages, and so we got to make sure that we do a good job of streamlining our package and making sure he can execute.
See, under Missouri State, under Petrino, that they haven't had before. Has he brought a different look to that team?
Well, I think they got some definite playmakers. I really, today spent a lot of time watching their offense. I think they're really solid up front on the offensive line. They got 3 wide receivers that extremely impressed with: Xavier Lane, Jordan Murray, Tyrone Scott, all 3 big, long kids that can go up and get it. Always creates a concern for 50-50 balls. I think one of the things that probably you don't necessarily talk about when you see them on the field, but they got 20 seniors in their 2 deep. I don't know when the last time I've seen a Missouri State team have that sort of veteran, probably leadership and experience on a football team. Well, I know anytime we have 20 seniors, we get pretty excited about it, because that's a group that's going to really coach themselves and operate themselves. And so they continue to get better. Defensively, they got some really talented kids, especially the Braswell kid, number 4 in the backfield, like him. Solid up front. They only play 4 or 5 guys, but they're big, they're physical. Their backers are going to be downhill guys, so it'll be a challenge. This is a good football team.
No carries for Tamarick at all at UND. Had a couple of carries in a big spot against Illinois State. What was that, a game plan thing in Grand Forks, or is he starting to understand the playbook better? You've seen more from him?
Well, I think it's a trust thing. Anytime you're a new player, just throw yourself into his role. It's no different than being a freshman all over again, learning a new playbook, learning new terminology, new protections. Maybe being involved more in protections than he's ever been before. So I think we got to give him a little bit of leeway for some learning. And so he's continued to do a really good job. He's established himself, and coaches trust that he can be in there. I know this last weekend he probably only played 8 or 9 snaps. Half of them he carried it, but the other half he was doing something without the ball. And the expectation is you got to be great even without the football, especially at that position.
What have you seen on Loshaka's development to get in there and play as many reps as he did on Saturday?
Ton of energy, and that's where it starts with. Not always going to be right, but he's always going to be going 100 miles an hour. Plays with his hair on fire, and that's one of the things that really excites me, excites Coach Buda, Coach Braun on the defensive staff. He wants to get better. He wants to learn. He's probably put on 20 pounds since he's gotten here. He got here last fall, weighed 205. Still has plenty of room for the physical development and mental development, but you talk about just a young man creating confidence and building confidence weekly, daily. Here's a great example of it.
Originally, or was he always on defensive line?
Came to camp as a D end, played more like outside linebacker hybrid at Wayzata, but we knew he was going to be a D end from day one.
Limit there, what you think what he can do?
I don't know. I hope he continues to impress me every day.
About Titus Wall, I think that kid's played like 48 games for them or something, 48 or 49 games for them in the back end. Number 7.
Yeah, number 7, the boundary safety. He's always around the football. A guy that's been probably through some transition, and really, I got to believe he's probably one of the leaders of the football team. Recruited by the previous staff, now playing for this one, has seen Missouri State football kind of go full circle now, and plays with a lot of energy, has some big play potential in him. And so I'm excited. And they'll move him over. They'll bring him down. He'll play on the LOS. He'll play free safety. He'll play in the 2-high structure. So he's a smart football player because they ask him to do a lot of different things.
Their status this week, do you know?
I haven't talked to our medical people yet. I know last week he was getting better. He was running. And so baby steps. When we get him back, we want him back permanently. I don't want it to be an every other day or game situation.
Approach with Braden.
I'm hoping sooner than later. I mean, he did work out on the field at Hancock Stadium before the game, just going through some things. Quick story about Braden. Our last home game, I was getting a workout in the shack here, and all of a sudden he comes in, and there he is working out already. So in his mind, he's ready to play. Now he's got to get the actual people that know what we're talking about to give us some clearance.
Man, what do you make of Jason Shelley? He's been in a couple different spots, but the quarterback, it looks like he can move and can throw the ball too.
Yeah, extremely dynamic and can really throw the ball. You watch him, big curl flat concept team at times, but they're pushing those curls way downfield. I mean, it is deeper than what most teams would probably 16 come back to 12. I mean, they're pushing them really deep. And so it's getting over your seam players. It's getting over some of your underneath stuff. And it has the mobility to extend plays, has the mobility to be involved in some quarterback run. We're going to have to do a really good job of keeping contain of him, but also, like I said, they're pretty good on the perimeter as well and got some big backs that can break some tackles. So this will be a really good challenge for Code Green.
Your time in the league, has this always felt Missouri State like a sleeping giant, to find a guy to get in there with the area they have, the recruiting base they have, that is only a matter of time for Missouri State would be good?
I always probably wondered why they hadn't had some success. I know back in the 90s they had some, and I know some of the coaches that were part of that staff back then. But you're right, Springfield I think sells itself. You're accessible to a lot of kids, especially you start talking about Oklahoma City, Arkansas, maybe even Memphis. Getting into Tennessee a little bit, Kansas City. KCK, KC, Missouri. I mean, there's a lot of kids within, probably driving distance for you.